Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. How was that? How did you enjoy that? That's right. That's the quarantine life from Chad Prather and CJ LaRose. I'm telling you, that was brilliant. I had never seen that. It came to my attention earlier today. Actually, another song came to my attention, and that one I just went with. I will be playing another of Chad's songs at the end of the stream if you hang around. And no marathon streams tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But we'll go for an hour or so and just get folks updated about what's going on around the planet. So I hope that you enjoyed that. I thought that was hilarious. By the way, I do have the artist's permission. I contacted Chad, and he graciously, gave me permission to use his music. And so I want to promote that. Not a country music fan, but I'm telling you, man, that is awesome. That is awesome. What's with my speaker? My speaker is weird. What's that mean? I got some echo going on. Sound is not good. Okay, why is my sound not good? Big muffled. That's odd. Same sound it was on earlier. Yeah, it's odd. I've got something playing in the background and there's nothing playing, which is strange. I've got noise picked up there, so I don't know what that went. Bless it, stupid thing. I don't know why. Anyway, yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. Chad Prather. So anyway, let me just go ahead and close out all my windows, and maybe that's what the background noise is. And I apologize for that, Firefox. There we go. Close out Firefox, and hopefully that will help. No, I see some noise still coming in the background there. I don't know what it is. No, there's not too much gain. The gain is about 60%. I'm not hitting in the red on anything. Volume is turned up all the way. Need some sun. What does this need some sun? My face is red. Look at that. Pink from the sun, ladies and gentlemen. Not so sure what that's all about. Okay. Oh, I know what's going on. Hang on, folks. Hang on. Here we go. All right, let's try that now. Is that much better? Ladies and gentlemen, how's that? Is that better? That should be better. Somehow my computers or my camera software stole the webcam mic. That's why it sounded badly. Okay, nope, doesn't sound better. Well, I'm not getting any feedback here on this side. I still see levels there. That's strange. Well, the only way for me to end this would be to end the stream. I'm not going to do that. That's odd. Yeah. Hello, folks. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Okay. Well, let me turn the volume down, and I'll sit back. Is that better? This is crazy. What the heck? I don't understand this. It's not a crap mic. It's crap Microsoft. That's the problem. That's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. And now people are leaving the stream because the sound sucks. Well, I'm sorry about that. I don't know why that is. Can't control it. I have not yet installed my virtual mixer, which I'm going to do sometime soon. But anyway, yeah. Let me do this. My thumbnail. Oh, that's what you're talking about, Kermit. You're talking about the photograph. Gotcha. Okay, guys. All right, that's what it was. Okay, tad better. Well, I mean, I've turned everything down and I'm whispering now, essentially, so hopefully that helps. But yeah, so apologies, folks, for the sound. I don't know what the problem is today. You know, we've had perfect sound for a bit, and now all of a sudden it wants to play games. I don't know what the deal is. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Indaba, Africa. This is Chris in central Pennsylvania. Joe Emilio is here. Yeah, Joe is saying catch all of Ronaldo's viewers before they leave. Ronaldo Jos, I guess John Steenhuisen was probably not available tonight. Yeah, Cordelia says you can't whisper. That's true. Yeah, I'm guessing that John Steenhuisen wasn't available, and so he probably he canceled the stream for tonight. Shame. The Notorious G is in the house, and he asked me if I know Parler. If I know, am I on Parler? Yes, I'm on Parler. It's listed in the comments below my prepared videos. It lists me in Parler, so you can find me at WMW Chris on Parler, which I mentioned there. So Tion's here. Fonz, good to see you. Cordelia van der Merwe, Wesley, Gareth, Hank. All right, good evening, good to see you there. Dagaboy, Lezan, hey. Yanni, good to see you, Yanni. And Hank is going crazy with the custom emojis. Ladies and gentlemen, if I get one more member to the site, then I can add more custom emojis. So if you want more custom emojis, twist your friend or neighbor's arm to get them to become member of Chris White Africa. So Hank has got the sauropod there, and he's got, it looks like a monkey. I can't see it. Thumbs up, another sauropod, freezing, the unicorn, and the rhino. Yeah, so Vutsarko was here. I don't know if he took off already, but thanks for popping in, Vutsarko. Acid Zil. Joe Emilio is missing Texas. How funny is that? Is that awesome? Is that awesome music or what? What's the topic tonight? Well, the topic tonight will be Malawi. We're going to talk about Malawi here in just a moment. Just a moment. Young's like, come on, join. We want emojis. Texas girls can shoot Joe. Yeah, wakakawa. How's it? Oh, it's good, Albano. Albano, good to see you. Vutsarko was laughing, apparently. Hip-hop and blue film music. Naughty, naughty. Ina says hello. Colonel Chris, good to see you. Good to see you. Monkey pushing wood. There you go. Good to see you again. Gareth, TJ Vion. Nigel is here. Turn your mic volume down a little bit. I did. I'll turn it down a little bit more in here. Okay, got more subscribers. Yes, picked up some more subscribers today, folks. Approaching 4,100. Thank you all so much for that. Brett, there you are. Good to see you. What do you know about Mengistu, Haile Mariam, and Red Terror in Ethiopia? I wish most of the world knew about his reign of Red Terror. Killed over 500,000 people. I don't know if that figure's accurate, but certainly there were a lot of people killed during that time frame, Brett. A fair amount, but right now with the volume, I'm not going to... sound has distortion. I don't know what that is. Anyway, oh, those are the old comments from before. Okay, so let me get back here. Gremlins, yeah. Yeah, no, the sound with Big Daddy Liberty was great, and it's on the same PC. I've got the same settings. I changed no mic settings. The mic is in the exact. How about now? You guys hear me now? How's that? Is that better? Let me go back and change this. Let me just check one thing real quick. God, this is very annoying. I'm very sorry for this, folks. All right, set for the Yeti, okay? And it's set on the camera, and now the microphone is on. All right, volume ain't helping. All right, well, what about now? Better, okay, much better, okay. All right, guys, thanks a lot. Thank you for your patience and sticking with me. Actually, those of you who came in the chat in the midst of that crappy sound, thank you for coming in and putting up with the crappy sound. Okay, we're good to go. I thought we'd solved all the problems here, but I think it was it had to do with the fact that my camera software switched and it took over the webcam mic, and I don't know why. That's why it was so far away. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We're going to announce in just a moment. We should see our friend. Come on, Zombie. Come on. Zombie should be climbing here in just a moment. And I'll get to the discussion here. There it is. There it is. Come on. I don't see it on my screen. I don't see it. It's showing up. There's a lag here from the chat. I don't know why the chat is lagging. Okay. Hank says I posted some YouTube streams for Joe Unati on Twitter. Great. Thanks a lot for doing that. And, well, it's not showing up on the screen. I don't know why. Let me double check and make sure that hasn't been turned off by mistake. Member goal is on. Okay, Super Chats is on. Anyway, sorry about that, Gareth. But Gareth has just become a team member there, a recruit team member. Thank you so much for that, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. There it is. There he is. Thank you so much. Get that zombie going up the Mahalisburg. Gareth becomes our 50th. I think he might be our 50th member. Someone contacted me earlier asking about how to become a member, so I have to look and see if that's the case, if he's actually the 50th. So give me just a moment here. I'm going to confirm because I have that ability to go into the channel and check. Ladies and gentlemen, was the stream earlier not an epic stream? Was it not? Oh my goodness. I truly, truly enjoyed that stream. It was a whole lot of fun with Big Daddy Liberty. Really, really enjoyed it. Those of you who've been asking for us to be on the same stream together for a long time, you finally got your wish. And I don't think people were disappointed. I know I wasn't disappointed. I truly enjoyed it. So thank you all for tuning in. Also, really exciting stuff about it. We've already hit 2,000 views on a live stream. That's the first time that's ever happened for me. So thank you so much for that. In addition to that, excuse me, in addition to the 2,000 members, or 2,000 on the live stream, that's 51. Gareth and Robert. Gareth and Robert joined? Both? Robert just joined. It's showing up in here's Robert joined. Oh, there you go. Robert, you're 51. Gareth, you are the 50th member. Thank you for joining. And Robert is the 51st member. Thank you guys so much for joining, Chris White African. Yeah, so that was, let's talk about Big Daddy Liberty. Okay, first off, the first thing is amazing stream. I'm sorry, if you guys disagree with me, tell me you didn't think it was great, but I truly enjoyed the stream. Second thing, 257 concurrent viewers. I know it's not Kim Kardashian. I don't have a bum big enough to impress people. There's Robert's Mahalisburg zombie climbing up there. But 257 is the most I've ever had in the stream. It topped Willem Petzer. It topped Ronaldo Hos. It topped Roman. It topped everybody. Now, part of it, of course, is because more people are becoming aware of the channel. But nonetheless, it's a big name. Big Daddy, he's very popular. And so 257 concurrent viewers. Topped 2,000 views on a live stream in less than 2 hours. Thank you so much for that. It was amazing. Yeah, Hendo says a lot was said in that stream. Now listen, I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, that yesterday on Germ Warfare, Ronaldo Host came on there and he said that Chris could read the Lord of Rings trilogy in 30 minutes. A comment on how fast I talk. Well, I think that I have a competitor in Big Daddy Liberty. He also talks incredibly fast. And so the point that was made there is a lot was said in that hour. I would agree. Between the two of us, we said a lot. Hopefully you found it interesting. And if you haven't seen the stream, feel free to go back and watch it at any time. It's there. I'm going to go back and watch it again myself tonight, and just because I tend to go back and watch my videos to try to improve things, to see what can be done better. But thank you all so much. That was an epic stream. I'm all stoked now. I'm excited. It was really cool. What's sound? It's not bad. Clipping. Okay, the clipping is not the mic. The clipping has got to be frame loss, and I don't know why we're losing frames. I guess I'm lucky that Big Daddy thing went really well. Yeah, he's got a sharp mind, Nigel, and he does talk fast. Marius Klukamp says, congrats on the 4,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. Christo says, it was an awesome stream. BDL gets excited as you about things he's passionate about. Yeah, really, really cool. Enjoy that. So bad that BDL is almost completely ignored on mainstream media. Yeah, they do ignore him. So let's not ignore him. Let's promote him. Let's get him out there. If he and Unati form a part of the ANC, he's done. Well, not if people don't find out about him. Yeah, maybe it's the red Nintendo, but maybe we've got it fixed. No, I'm not using the laptop. I'm using the PC, so I'm not sure. Anyway, so hopefully people can hear a little bit better now, and I'll stick my head up here, and maybe that'll cut the clipping out. So what's happening in Malawi? Thank you, Clinton, for getting back to that. All right, well, Malawi has just successfully conducted the first ever recall or rerun election in the history of Africa in which an opposition party wins the election. It's historical first, ladies and gentlemen. The courts set aside the May 2019 election in which President Peter Mutharika won with 38.5% of the vote. His opponent Lazarus Chakwera had 34.5%, and another opponent had 20%. And what happened is that the opposition parties went to the courts, said that it was a fraudulent election, that there were election irregularities. The Constitutional Court said, in fact, there were election irregularities, and earlier this year they ordered a new election, much to the chagrin and consternation of President Peter Mutharika. Now, this gentleman attempted to have because what happened after the Constitutional Court is that they appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld the Constitutional Court's decision and let it go forward, saying there must be another election. So Mutharika had to compete in another election. That election was held a couple days ago, and we've got the results. The results are that the opposition coalition has won. President Peter Mutharika is no longer the president, and his successor is now Lazarus Chakwera, and he has been sworn in as the president in the warm heart of Africa, in Malawi, a country with 16, 18 million people. Fascinating little place right on Lake Malawi or Lake Nyasa, depending on who you talk to, which side of the border you come from. Wonderful place, warm heart of Africa. Capital is Lilongwe, commercial capital in the south is Blantyre. Fantastic place. They have done something yet again in Malawi. They have shown that a country that does little in the way of natural resources and has little in the way of wealth can nonetheless have a vibrant, functioning democracy. Now, also, of course, Malawi is the one country in which when the government ordered a lockdown and told people to be imprisoned in their homes, people took them to the court. And the court overruled the government, said that the Constitution does not give the government the authority to impose a lockdown on Malawi. So Malawi has not had a lockdown, ladies and gentlemen, and they've had, well, not great results, but decent results for a country the size they are. So in fact, I haven't taken a look at this in a while because we all got hot full of the worldometer, didn't we? Got tired of looking at the count of the coronavirus. But let me go ahead and look this up and see what the current numbers are, because last time I looked it was under 2,000. And I'll look at Malawi and see what we got. But Malawi's done pretty well considering, and with 10 million cases now around the world, 500,000 deaths. So still has not eclipsed malaria from 2019. Malaria had 620,000 people die last year. So let me find Malawi on here very quickly. Anyway, so yeah, excuse me. Malawi has 1,146 cases in a country of about 16, 18 million people, with just 13 total deaths. And they had no lockdown. That's right, no lockdown. The government tried to have a lockdown, but the courts upheld the Constitution and prevented the government from imposing a lockdown. And they only had 1,100 cases. Strange how that works. Anyway, so there you have it. Malawi had elections, and I actually wanted to bring that in. Let me see if I can bring that in here very quickly and reload that page. This is from the Financial Times, and I'm going to bring in and read a few comments to you from it. From the election, a few important pieces here. So there we go. That should come in. There it is. There it is. And I'll turn myself. Okay, so there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So the opposition takes power in Malawi after historic election rerun. Former Pentecostal pastor Lazarus defeats Peter Mutharika in presidential poll. Lazarus Chakwera, a Pentecostal priest or pastor turned politician, was inaugurated as Malawi's president after winning the first opposition victory in an election rerun in African history. Took the oath of office in the long way, and he won with 58% of the vote. Now, with 75% of the vote counted, it was 55 to 40, so he picked up more votes in those last 25. So congratulations. Malawian judges ordered a rerun after they ruled that fraud, including the use of Tipex correction fluid to alter tallies, marred Mutharika's re-election a year ago. Mr. Mutharika called the new vote the worst in Malawi's history of our elections, but called on Malawians to accept the result. Well, I will give Peter Mutharika credit for saying that folks should accept the results, but he's not exactly a democratic figure, so it's nice to see him call for unity and step aside in the interest of the nation. He, of course, famously attempted to subvert the Constitution when Joyce Banda was due to succeed his brother, Binguwa Mutharika, back in 2012, when Mutharika died in office, I think on April 5th or something like that, April 5th of 2012, I think the date was. His brother died in office, and she was the vice president. And rather than her become president, he went to the Malawi Defense Force and said, okay, this woman's not going to be president. You're going to back this, right? So the Malawi Defense Force under Major General Henry Odila said, no. That's the Constitution. The sitting vice president succeeds the deceased president, and we have an election within 60 days, and we are not going to subvert the Constitution. Unsure what to do, Mutharika and his allies dithered. The Southern African Development Community, with rare alacrity, stepped in and said that this must be resolved, and about 2 days later, Joyce Banda was sworn in as president. So he tried to stop her from becoming president. Now, of course, the reason for that was that Joyce Banda had been in the same political party as Binguwa Mutharika, but the moment that Binguwa Mutharika became president, he abandoned his party because he didn't like it, and he formed a new political party in office. And so you had an odd situation in which you had a president from one party and a vice president from another party. But nonetheless, Joyce Banda stayed in that position. She eventually became the president, and then she won the election, even though there were irregularities. 2 years later, they held for another election, and she actually lost the election to Peter Mutharika. Lots of irregularities, but she stepped aside for the good of the nation. Peter Mutharika became president, and now he's been president since 2014, and he lost because the election from last year was invalidated. He lost this time around. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is events in Malawi, the warm heart of Africa, a desperately poor country which has a wealth of human capital, beautiful scenic location. If you look at the thumbnail for this stream when you came on today, you'll notice that it is a picture of what's called the Shire country, which is in the center just below the Longway. Mountainous hillsides, kind of like you think of in Lord of the Rings, and that's exactly what it looks like. And it's quite a beautiful location, but wonderful place, and its nickname for Malawi is the warm heart of Africa. So let's see what else we got here from the chat. Nigel says he's beginning to wonder if the numbers in South Africa are cooked. Maybe the WHO didn't pay him enough. Yeah, please hit the like button, folks. Please do that. Garrett said, this is from earlier, Big Daddy. Great. What's happening in Malawi? The count, yes, hand adjustment. The count now is 51 members of the site. Yep. Yeah, the mic does have a gain control. Acoustic panels would be a sound investment. Well, yes, username there would be. But between the photography studio lights, the paintings in the wall background, the new microphone, I'm running into like $1,000 on the studio so far. This is meant to be originally just something that augmented my consultancy. It's turning into a full-time affectation at this point. So yeah. Does Malawi look after the farmers? Yes and no, Clinton. What I mean by that is that, what do you mean by look after them? The government makes it possible for people to farm. Land tenure is not quite the issue that you find in some other countries. It's resolved in many respects. But when you say look after them, a lot of people in Malawi would expect that the government looking after them would be for the government to buy them fertilizer, which is one of the key things that Malawi needs, is a regular supply of fertilizer. And I disagree with that. That's not the government's role. That's the role of the farmer, to purchase the fertilizer and or come up with a means to fertilizing your soil. But a lot of people in Malawi seem to think that it's the government's role, because there was a time the government subsidized fertilizer for Malawian farmers. When they had the resources to do that, Malawi had record crop yields just a decade ago. They did quite well. But when the government ran out of money to subsidize fertilizer purchases, the economy suffered and agricultural production declined. And people were accustomed to the government providing subsidies, and they weren't willing or able to bear the burden of the full cost of fertilizer. So yes, they do better than the South African government does in many respects. Robert says we need new elections in this country. Well, unless the ANC postpones somehow or illegally cancels the 2021 elections or delays them, you have municipal elections in 2021. Why is Tion's laughing about fraudulent elections? I guess because you're surprised, it's Africa, right? Been to Malawi, awesome. Folks just very poor. Yes, they are nostalgic. Folks in Malawi are quite poor, but they manage. They get by. They do well. There's a virus in South Africa's ANC. Yep. Malawi's proof that lockdown was a media hoax. Yeah, I think so, Clinton McConnell. I think that is. And not just Malawi. Let's look at Taiwan. Taiwan, I haven't looked at them in 2 weeks, but Taiwan had an amazing record when it came to COVID-19. Of course, when the World Health Assembly met, here you go, Taiwan. Taiwan has 447 cases of COVID-19 with 7 deaths. 2 weeks ago, when I did a video on this, or 3 weeks ago, they had 7 deaths. They had 441 cases. So essentially, one would have to argue that it's nearly COVID-free. Taiwan is 165 kilometers from mainland China, ladies and gentlemen, with 24 million people and just 447 cases of COVID-19. By the way, Taiwan had no lockdown. The officials didn't shut down the country. They closed the borders, but they didn't shut down the country. People went about their business, and they took care of those who were most vulnerable by protecting them and isolating them. What a concept. What a concept. But when the World Health Assembly, an annual meeting of chuckleheads in the World Health Organization, met for its meeting, once again, under pressure from their buddies or their paymasters in Beijing, the World Health Organization decided not to allow Taiwan to participate in the World Health Assembly a few weeks ago. Now, the irony of this is this was a virtual World Health Assembly. The conference wasn't physical, people called in from around the world, and I presume they used Zoom or something like that. So why can't Taiwan join? Because mainland China is a bunch of bigoted, ethnic-centric, terrible little turds who just cannot tolerate the Chinese nationalist government, which became the government on Formosa, which became Taiwan. The original government of Chiang Kai-shek, for those who remember that far back in history. Yes, so Taiwan, who had wonderful best practices to share with the world and would have helped the world if they'd been part of the World Health Assembly by explaining their best practices and how they dealt with this. And the numbers speak for themselves. 24 million people, 7 months, 8 months into this, 447 cases, just an additional 6 cases in 2 weeks with just 7 deaths, not a single additional fatality. Top that. Top that. Look at Malawi, 1,100 cases and just a handful of deaths there. Something is rotten in Denmark. Only Denmark is all the national capitals where the totalitarians are running the world and lying to us, Chris White, will you do a stream with the likes of Cobus Visa, Francois Pinard, John Smith, Sio Khaleesi, Rossi Erasmus, Beast? I would do PTSD, Victor Matfield. I'd love to bring those guys on, Hank, but I don't know any of them personally, and I don't know how to get them on here. If anybody knows any of those Springbok players, current or former, that you have contact with, please tell them that I would most definitely love for them to be on the channel, and I'd be happy to interview them. I've not had any rugby players on. I was thinking of contacting Rugby United New York because I actually know the owner of Rugby United New York, James Kennedy, and maybe he could get me some of the players on here, so I might do that. So, by the way, for those who are interested, there's a little plug right there. There's the link for how to join the channel if you want to become a member of Chris White Africa. So, how's that Madagascar miracle cure doing? Not so well. South Africa includes deaths of any prior complications. In fact, it's the same problem here in the United States. So now we have the media distorting a narrative and lying to people. So surprise, surprise. So what's happening here in the United States, of course, is that forever, anyone who had a suspected COVID case, in other words, a 97-year-old man with metastatic lung cancer, stage 4 metastatic lung cancer, dies from lung cancer, since he's in the hospital and it was a lung ailment, must be COVID. And the state of New York is counting a death like that as a COVID-19 death. So the numbers are highly suspicious, highly suspect, at least here in the States and in many other places. And beyond that, they're actually getting people who have COVID-19, they've tested for it, and if they die, they count that as a COVID-19 death, whether that was the proximate cause of their death or not. So that's just utter nonsense. You have people with type 2 diabetes and they have a massive coronary. They didn't die from type 2 diabetes, they died from a massive coronary. You have people with type 2 diabetes who die from diabetes or on kidney dialysis, and they're also having COVID-19, but they don't die from that. But they're counting those as deaths. So it's all highly suspicious. If they just had the humility to be honest to us and say, hey, we don't know, we didn't know, this was what the science told us, and we were wrong based on more data, now we know this. But no, they just know everything, and we're wrong, and we should do exactly what they're told. But back to the Springboks players, I would be happy to interview any rugby players. I'd love to interview some rugby players and get them on the channel. Absolutely love to do that. Let's see. Oh, shame. Garrett said his father-in-law had passed, so he would have been able to get a hold of all of them for me. Oh, well, that would have been nice. That would have been cool. Rugby players would be awesome, Clinton. Yeah, I agree. I've done a few rugby videos on here. I would do more, but there's no rugby going on other than in New Zealand. Super Rugby, their version of Super Rugby now is going. Actually, speaking of which, I watched the last two games. Friday's game was pretty darn good. Yesterday's game, or this morning's game, was good, but not great. But Friday's game was amazing. Really good game. Raptors, he's a Sapphire. Oh, South UK. Who's the lucky? Oh, he's a lucky bugger because he's in the UK. Oh, the Paul in Tanzania. That's correct. For an effective low-cost solution, do-it-yourself acoustic panels using old towels and a staple gun. Is that for COVID-19 or for the sound from my microphone? Yes, well, Raptorman says okay, Hank, my Twitter handle is the same as it is on Parler. On Twitter and Parler. There you go. So you guys can find me on there. Yep. Clinton, I miss rugby too. And the New Zealand version isn't nearly enough to make me happy. It doesn't satisfy that itch. But hey, so back to the Chad Prather music video at the beginning there. Quarantine Life. What do you guys think about that? Thumbs up or thumbs down? That's a hilarious song. Lido, what's up? You good? Great stream with BDL. Hoping to meet him this week. Well, that'd be awesome, Lido. If you do, come back and let us know how it went. He seems like a really nice chap. Kermit GTT says, a man was found tied to a fence with 35 stab wounds, 6 gunshots, and axe in his head. Doctor said it was the worst case of COVID they'd ever seen. I get the humor. But yeah. Apparently SARS will only be open for business at level 1. Well, there'll be no sin tax for cigarettes until level 1. And who knows, you might even not get cigarettes back when you finish with COVID-19. The president of South Africa, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, is quite happy to continue the cigarette ban, I would guess, even after COVID-19 is over. SARS is open. Okay. All hail the plastic token. Would love to see the U.S. national rugby team join the Super 15. Well, not the national team, but the rugby, Super Rugby, the deal a few years ago before they went to Japan and added Argentina was that what was supposed to happen is that a West Coast-based franchise in Los Angeles or San Diego or even Seattle was supposed to be joining Super Rugby. Hey, Brett, there he is going up to Hollisbury, donated $2 through Super Chat. And Brett has a question. And actually, Brett, I saw the question earlier, so I'm sorry I didn't get to it. Thanks for reminding me with the Super Chat. Thank you so much for the Super Chat. Have you heard about the China-India border tension? In fact, I have, Brett, and we've talked about it in the stream several times. Initially, one of the subscribers asked me about it, and I'd missed it. And then we talked about it in the further stream after that. The Chinese killed and attacked a large number of Indian troops on the border. This isn't new. It's new that it got attention in the midst of this, and I'm curious why it got so much attention. China has been acting maliciously on their border for years with their neighbors, so it's not surprising. Of course, India and Pakistan frequently have border tensions and shootouts and artillery battles, and people get killed, and that doesn't get much attention. So it is interesting to see China get this. While this has been going on, the Chinese attacking a Vietnamese ship in the South China Sea got very little attention, and they nearly beat to death a Vietnamese ship captain. So strange that that's not getting much more attention. But yes, I have heard about it. At least 20 were killed, and 19 or 20 were killed in the initial action that took place between China and India. When I say China and India, it was China attacking India. Clinton wants to know more about Malawi. Well, Malawi is known as the warm heart of Africa, and it has a long lake that forms its eastern boundary. And then the southern part is different, but the middle part to the top of the country is all Lake Nyasa or Lake Malawi. And by the way, for trivia fact for folks, if you have tropical fish in your fish tank at home, odds are that those fish originated, at least their ancestors, in Lake Malawi. Most tropical fish around the world, those little blue and red fish and colorful fish, all come from Lake Malawi. That's correct. That's where they come from. freshwater lake, and that's where people get them from, and they've reproduced them, and of course they bred them for specific breeds, but most of the tropical fish that we have come from there, freshwater fish, that is. So let's see, great interest song, we can all do with some humor, no doubt, Fonz. Yeah, so Malawi, what else about it? Interesting agricultural sector. If you go to Blantyre, that's the commercial center, the commercial capital of the country, located in the south, directly in the middle of the south. Blantyre has a famous hotel there, which is part of the Protea chain now, but it was a rest hotel. It's been there for over a century. Quite interesting history, colorful history to it. I want to say it's the Wanderers, but I'm not sure if that's the name. I've forgotten. Also, you'll find a Carlsberg brewery there. The only Carlsberg brewery on the entire continent of Africa is located in Blantyre. I've been there. I've done the factory tour. It pales in comparison to the Carlsberg brewery tour in Copenhagen, but it was interesting nonetheless. So that's Blantyre, the commercial capital. If you take off from Blantyre and you drive directly north towards Lake Malawi, it's quite an interesting drive. As you pass through on the road, you'll go past mink farms where they raise mink. You'll see tobacco, you'll see maize, you'll see rice paddies. I've never seen such diverse agricultural activity in such a short space of time and distance. Quite amazing, quite beautiful. Then when you get to Lake Malawi, you get to Monkey Bay. Monkey Bay, if you can go out, there's a ferry there that you can take to get across the lake. It's quite beautiful, and there's some resorts located nearby Monkey Bay. Quite lovely for people who like to go hang out on the beach, sunbathe, do a little bit of swimming. Not my sort of thing, but interesting nonetheless. Malawi is a fascinating place. Is there a port? Yes, Monkey Bay is a port. Is that a reference to Roman Cabanach, Zambia doesn't have a port story? Yes, Malawi does have a port, Monkey Bay. It's also their naval base. The Malawi Defense Force does have a small number of people that work in the water as well. Okay. What have I missed here? Malawi's main export. Maize tends to be a big export for them, but I have to look and see. It changes over time. True story, Asker Admirals. We in South Africa would be involved in wars, but we need our nuclear submarines to deter sharks. We can have so much fun with the arms deal. So much fun. Willem Wiekelsby says, pro sports players usually shy away from anything political except if your name is Ashwin. Ooh. Ashwin Willemsen. Yeah, very disappointing his conduct. I saw that, and anyway, Ollie LaRue would be great. Has some fantastic stories and unafraid. Well, listen, if I bring rugby players on, we can just talk about sports. The only political part we talk about is the lockdown, and that's not really political. That's just the reality. So if you noticed, if you've tuned in for the live stream with I'm trying to blank out, jeez. Yesterday on my live stream, my guest was Reese Fundervop, and Reese and I talked about reopening her business and the challenges of the business. Didn't really talk much about politics. We talked a little bit about it, but not really. What's healthcare like in Malawi? Brett says. Well, it's not great, Brett. It's rudimentary. It's not particularly great. I don't even know if they have a level 1 trauma center in the entire country. I doubt they do. Uganda, which has a much larger population, doesn't have a level 1 trauma center. So I seriously doubt that they do. Malawi, too expensive. Here, most are fish are from Southeast Asia. Yeah. So healthcare is not particularly good, and Malawi still is heavily dependent on foreign assistance, which is unfortunate. But it's the most densely populated part of the continent, except for Mauritius, which is off coast. But on the continent proper, it's the most densely populated part of the country. And actually, I drove there from Lilongwe to Blantyre one trip once, and it was the most harrowing drive I've ever had in Africa. It was in broad daylight, but it's just one road, and the elephant grass was about shoulder height, and people and donkeys and wild animals and pets and children dart out in front of you on roads that have, about 100 meters of visibility or less ahead of you as you went around switchbacks. Very harrowing. I drove very slowly when I was there. The only African Chilchi family tropical fish, the rest come mostly from Asia or South America. All right. If you go swimming, you do so at your own risk. That's true. What's your view on Lazarus Chakirwa? Nigel asks. I don't know much about him. I don't have any reason to think that he's going to be a poor leader or that things will go badly. We'll see what will happen. What's the opposition party in Malawi offering in change? Well, no Peter Mutharika for starters. That's one thing. Their platform wasn't that divergent from what Mutharika is doing. The main thing they were looking at was trying to get rid of Mutharika. Let me see. Garrett says, did you hear Swaziland bought a Navy ship but lost? You guys are having to go. Let's colonize something. You should drive through the Transkei. Is that what that was meant to be? Okay. Nessie was the south. You guys are funny. Yeah, Transkei, that's what you meant to say. We do have subs, we just don't know how to sync them. Yeah. We want to join. Raptor Man wanted to join the military, and then he rode a motorbike and went off a cliff because, ooh. You guys are just okay. People are really having fun tonight in the chat. So, yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So Malawi has done quite well under COVID, relatively speaking, and they didn't have a lockdown, despite their neighbor Zimbabwe having an intense lockdown, and South Africa to the south having an intense lockdown. Botswana and Namibia also having lockdowns. They've done quite well. Now, the scary thing for Malawi is that they better hope that the insurgency and the Islamic fundamentalism that's taking place in the northern part of Mozambique doesn't find its way inland to Malawi. Many years ago, people claimed that there was religious tension and there was going to be a religious war between Christians and Muslims in Malawi. And I went there and researched that topic and found that this was a bit of hyperbole, people simply overstating and taking a few instances and turning them into something much more than they actually were. Unlikely to be that sort of thing taking place in Malawi. But yeah, Christians and Muslims tend to get along there for the most part, but there are occasions where people have issues. Yeah, so Malawi. Garrett says it's defense mechanism. Everyone's scared if Malawi works now, we might lose domestic workers and gardeners. Yeah, no, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, Dion Desvat says honest human labor. Yeah, no, Malawians are pretty good. Work pretty hard, decent work ethic. Just that the country doesn't have much in the way of wealth. Doesn't mean it has to stay that way. It could change. Just a question. The first president of the country was Hastings Banda, and he was president for decades. And he's the one kind of the father of the nation that led Malawi into the independence era. It's funny because it led to a historical anomaly. So a little bit more about Malawi. So the Malawi Defense Force has been historically neglected by the government. And in fact, the Ministry of Defense, which is a relatively recent creation, when it was created, didn't know how to handle or work with the military, which is odd. You would think they would, but they didn't. And this is a consequence of the fact that Hastings Banda had his own little private army of supporters, Young Patriots or something like that they were called. And Hastings Banda used that to maintain political order and to be in control of the country, and it was also essentially his army. So there was an official Malawi Defense Force, but for decades it was neglected, underfunded, and wasn't involved in the political process, which perversely has contributed to the Malawi Defense Force being a largely apolitical organization, which is fantastic. They were one of the easiest militaries for me to work with in Africa. They were fantastic. I have to say that they were professional. They just lacked resources completely. When I worked with them, there were 8,000 members of the Malawi Defense Force, the MDF. Their headquarters was at Kamuzu Barracks right there in Lilongwe. And they were great to work with. They were easy. They were understanding. They weren't corrupt. I'm sure there was somebody corrupt, but the people I dealt with weren't corrupt. The biggest challenge they had is getting equipment. So, for instance, when I first started going there and working, they were trying to send a unit to Darfur, I think it was, for peacekeeping. And they didn't have the armored personnel carriers. So they worked through a whole group, the military on its own, because the ministry did nothing except tell them they wanted to do peacekeeping. So the military on its own contacted Paramount Group, or I don't know if it was Paramount Group, a defense contractor in South Africa, and got a contract to get some Buffalo or some Caspers and some other vehicles, which they would buy, but they would be able to buy them with almost no money down. They should be shipped to the location in Darfur. The Malawi Defense Force would show up and fall in on the equipment. And then from the payments that Malawi got from the United Nations, they would use that money to pay back the South African defense contractor. Pretty original thinking, out of the box, good plan. The ministry put the kibosh on it. So they couldn't purchase the vehicles. And so we did all the training for the United Nations mission, and then they couldn't go do the United Nations mission because the United Nations doesn't provide that equipment. Left the Malawi Defense Force in kind of a bind and left a bitter taste in their mouth. Now, they already had some troops in the Congo, a small number, and they were able to repeat that mission. But the mission for Darfur required armored vehicles, so they were going to use Caspers, and it just didn't work out. It's unfortunate because they were really good force. My experience with them was fantastic, and at least twice, to my knowledge, they have gone out of their way to ensure that the rule of law is followed. and that the Malawian constitution is abided by the political parties and by the government. So it's always nice and rewarding to work with professional military, and it's especially rewarding to work with professional military that has no resources, that could easily turn to corruption and graft to get the things that they want, they desire, but they haven't done it. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, Mutharika didn't like Henry Odillo, Major General Henry Odillo, because he refused to use the army to get involved. And that wasn't the first time. His brother, Bingu wa Mutharika, had artificially set the exchange rate of the Malawian kwacha against the dollar and foreign exchange. So the official rate was something like 140 kwacha to the dollar, but the going rate was over 500 on the street. So you go to the casino in Lilongwe, people, money traders, would give you over 500 kwacha for every US dollar you had. It's a pretty good deal. But the upshot of this, that's the reason people couldn't afford to buy fertilizer, because oil was priced in dollars. Most fertilizer was made from oil. So it affected the price of fertilizer. So people couldn't afford it because of the artificial exchange rate. And what happened was people were hot full of the petrol prices because they couldn't afford them, hot full of the fact they couldn't afford fertilizer, and so there were demonstrations. And Bingu wa Mutharika turned to the Malawi Defense Force and said, I want you to come out and put down these demonstrations. They're disruptive to public order. I want the MDF to make it go away. General Odillo turned to the man who took him from being a colonel, skipped right over brigadier, and made him a major general, and took him from being the equivalent of, like, he was the attaché in Washington, then made him the commander of the Malawi Defense Force like that. And then the man that he did that to, I guess he assumed he had bought his loyalty, said to President Bingu wa Mutharika, I paraphrase, I wasn't in the meeting, sir, I can't do that. Unless you declare martial law, I can't do that because we have no authority under the Constitution to do law enforcement, short of martial law. So Bingu wa Mutharika paused, didn't say anything. General Odillo went back to the barracks, and then Mutharika called out the police, and 21 people were killed by the police, shot in the demonstrations. Yeah, so the Malawi Defense Force did not get its hands dirty, and it did not interfere with the democratic process there under Odillo. And then when Bingu died 6 months later, thereabouts, in office, and Joyce Banda was supposed to be the next president, what happened was Peter Mutharika approached Odillo and said, you're going to support us, right? She's not going to be president. And once again, he abided by the Constitution. Well, Mutharika got his revenge because not too long after he became president in 2014, suddenly Odillo's reputation and was on the rocks. He was accused of corruption and graft and theft. Whether he did or not, I don't know. He didn't do it when I knew the gentleman. It wasn't happening then. I think it was a smear job, a hit job. Whatever the case is, yeah, so the Mutharika is not exactly Democrats. So enjoy your sunset, your vacation, sir. You are nearly an octogenarian, 79 years old, turns 80 in July, and he wanted to run the country. Time to move on, Peter Mutharika. The almighty beard of Chris twitched. I saw it. Quick, everyone. Hit the like button. The beard will get you. Doc Ricker says, I have a family who went to Malawi for contract work and construction. When they heard him speak Afrikaans, they told him he must come stay there and farm. They seem like friendly people. Yeah, no, there actually are some South Africans who live in Malawi. I don't know if people know that. And some Afrikaners live up there. Some involved in agriculture, others involved in industry. And Malawi was a reliable ally of the apartheid government in South Africa for a long time under Hastings Banda. So there's been a long time relationship between Malawi and South Africa. Malawi's oftentimes, gone its own direction. For a long time, it was one of the few countries that recognized Taiwan as a legitimate government of China, not Beijing, which irritated the Chinese communists to no end. So Malawi has kind of an independent streak. It's good to see a professional military, though, not break the law. Nostalgic says, in my opinion, which country in Africa is the best military in terms of training, equipment, and personnel? Ooh, well, that's a difficult one. I think you have to look at sub-Saharan Africa and go from there. And if we're talking about sub-Saharan Africa, some militaries have pockets of excellence, which are really good, and others have entire militaries. So let me take it by region. I think that's the best way. And then maybe I can compare the regions. So I would say in East Africa, the Uganda People's Defense Force has the best trained, equipped, and experienced military in all of East Africa. In West Africa, I would say, generally speaking, that would be the Nigerians. But of course, the Nigerians are also the folks who got their hat handed to them trying to fight Boko Haram. So that's, why is Malawi poor? It's a good question, Clint. It'll take a long time to answer. It comes down to it didn't have much in the way of inheritance of infrastructure in place, of an economy that was widespread, and has a large population that's grown rapidly. So every advance economically has been undermined by an even faster population growth over its period of its independence. It's grown tremendously. I had 2 years that I worked Malawi. I didn't live there all the time. I traveled back and forth, but from 2008, 2010, Clinton. Yeah, so East Africa, I'd say the UPDF. West Africa, I would say, generally speaking, Nigeria. But honestly, it's not the largest, but the most professional military in West Africa, hands down, and well-trained and least corrupt, but not that experienced in doing things outside the country, would be Senegal. Senegal has an amazing military, very professional. Then in Central Africa, there are none, nothing. Southern Africa, I would have to say that the Botswana Defense Force is the best trained and most professional military in Southern Africa. Yeah, without a doubt. So in 1997, 1998, for those who don't know, Operation Bolias 1 and 2 was when the South African National Defense Force, the recently formed SANDF, went into what was ostensibly a SADC mission, but it was really a South African mission in which they hoodwinked Botswana to participate so they could throw an umbrella on it and go, woo, it's SADC. So they convinced Botswana to go. Botswana agreed because Lesotho was unstable, and the Basotho people and the Tswana people are close cousins. In fact, the languages in many respects are mutually understandable. You can go to Maseru and say, Dumela, and people understand you. You say, Otsi Hilijan, they got it. Anyway, the point is, so Botswana went. But the deal was this. The South Africans were supposed to provide fuel. They're supposed to provide transport, heavy equipment transport to get the vehicles down there and such. And they're supposed to provide rations and that sort of thing. And the government of South Africa provided virtually none of that. So they get to Lesotho by self-deploying from Botswana. That's a long drive, by the way, for military vehicles. They get to Maseru and they get out in the countryside. And the Botswana Defense Force and the SANDF go on joint patrols, working together. Okay, cool. But for those of you who have ever been Lesotho, you know that the Basotho people are an independent lot too. And the only reason the country of Lesotho exists is because Mshweshwe was able to pull back his forces into the mountains, and it became a defensible position in which the Trek boys are like, no, it's enough, we're done. We don't need these mountains. Not that important. It's not worth fighting over. And they just went around and didn't fight them any longer. I'm brushing over history, folks, so please, we're not going to spend 3 hours talking about Mshweshwe and the Basotho people. But the point is they maintained an independent kingdom as a consequence of their ability to defend themselves. So it's a long tradition in Lesotho for people to carry guns. You carry them openly in the villages. A shotgun, long rifle. It's not unusual for people to have that. So in one of these villages, a joint patrol of SANDF and BDF are out patrolling. And somebody dropped a rifle or misfired a round or something like that, a shotgun, I don't know what, but anyway, so talk to people who are actually there. The SANDF troops dropped their rifles and ran with one shot fired and not at them. The BDF troops are like, where are they going? What? Yeah, anyway, that was early days. Early days of the new SANDF. Anyway, after merging 7 militaries from the Bantustans, from the Transkei Defense Force, the Ciskei Defense Force, Maputo Tswana, and also from MK, Mkhonto we Sizwe, along with the South African Defense Force. And so, yeah, but that was Operation Bolias 1 and 2. And that speaks volumes about them back then. Kermit says he found the Malawians to be very humble people. Yeah, I think for the most part. Gareth says that's generally how Africa is. It's mostly good, but gets tainted by certain elements that make up for the rest. Kwacha. Yeah, that's the currency, the Kwacha, which is the same name for the currency in Zambia. Of course, one of the key languages in Malawi is Chichewa, and Chichewa is a language that's spoken also in eastern Zambia. So, and Kwacha. Yep, hot flood. Okay. Wow, Patrice Oosthuizen is given a 10 Rand 49 super chat. Well, thank you so much for that. That's an unusual figure there. And it's a diamond. Thank you. It's a super sticker, not a super chat. Thank you, Patrice. Appreciate that. It's very kind of you. Very nice of you. If we have Lesotho, why is Orania so wrong? Well, Clinton, Orania is not wrong. Orania is not a discriminatory corporation. People who adopt or accept Afrikaans culture are welcome there. There are coloreds who are Afrikaans speakers who live in Orania. It's not wrong. You just have politicians that are race baiting, and you can't fall for that, or you can't let people fall for that. And Alan Brautisef, that's an interesting surname, Brautisef, Alan says, Malawi is all right if you stay in the south. The more north you go, the more malaria. That is true. That is true. You do get more malaria. Raptor Man makes the point about the Sandef situation with Lesotho. It was not a retreat, it was a tactical withdrawal. Yes, but leaving your weapons behind really kind of undermines the tactical withdrawal part. Brett asked a question, says, Malawi have a good diplomatic relationship with the UK? Actually, I can answer that, Brett. And why I can answer that? Because I've actually worked with the United Kingdom on programs that we jointly funded to benefit the Malawi Defense Force and the people of Malawi. The UK, through DIRCO, their foreign assistant, not DIRCO, that's South Africa, excuse me, DFID, woo, South Africa. DIRCO is the foreign ministry in South Africa, which is a department. They don't have ministries, but they call their heads of departments ministers, so go figure. Anyway, DIRCO is South Africa. DFID. DFID is the development agency for the UK. The attaches don't fall under the military when they're deployed in countries around the world. They fall under DFID. And in Africa, I worked with a brilliant colonel from the UK who used to be stationed in South Africa and helped set up a peacekeeping training center in Pretoria, and then was assigned to Zimbabwe. In his role in Zimbabwe, he also covered Malawi, which is not uncommon for some attaches. So we worked together, we worked on projects in Malawi together in which the UK funded part of it and we funded another part of it. So let me give you an example of why that happened. So my predecessors, who had been to Malawi about 3 or 4 years prior, and then nobody had done anything in Malawi before I arrived there, they had funded an English language lab. Yes, I know English is a national language there, but not a lot of people speak it particularly well. So in the military, they wanted proficiency in English. So they wanted an English language lab to learn English. Great. So the U.S. government paid, I think it was $150,000, might have been more, to put in a lab. Bought computers, bought CDs, bought speakers, microphones, textbooks, lighting, renovated the building. It's fantastic. When I went there in 2008, the commandant of the Malawi Defense College talked to me when I met with him one-on-one and said, listen, what you can do best for me is build me a language lab. I said, okay, sir, thanks, appreciate it. And then I went and investigated and looked around the Malawi Defense College. Walked into a classroom and I saw a bunch of computers. And I saw all the CDs still in the shrink wrap, the plastic, and the computers had dust on them and they weren't in use. And I asked the people who worked there, I said, what are these? Oh, this is our language lab. I said, really? Why aren't these computers in use? Oh, because the power, there's a problem with the wiring. And I said, did you hire an electrician? No. So how long has it not been in use? Well, we never had it in use. We received this equipment from the Americans about 3 or 4 years ago, and we've never been able to use it because the power blew out in here, and you haven't hired an electrician. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the end of the U.S. government's involvement in purchasing a language lab for the Malawi Defense Force. If you can't hire an electrician to fix your electricity, we're not going to spend $200,000 giving you a language lab. The Brits, however, were more kind, and they wanted to get them a language lab. Once burned, twice shy on our part. But the Brits were willing to do it, and they're also renovating other parts of the building. So they talked to me, and I worked with this colonel, and we worked out a deal where I would pay for additional training for peacekeeping and also for national security and human rights and law of land warfare and all that. We put all that together, and I used State Department funding, and the Brits built the facility, and we did the training. Brilliant stuff. So Britain does have a good relationship with Malawi. It's traditionally had a good relationship. Brett says, I think Lazarus will be a good president for Malawi. I'm glad he was legally 100% Democrat. Yeah, no, I'm excited too, Brett. I think he will, but I don't know enough about him to think anything other than that. I know a little bit about him. Clinton says, what were you doing in Malawi? I think I just answered some of that. I was the security assistance officer responsible for cooperation with Malawi Defense Force and the Ministry of Defense. Yep. All right. Where are we at here? You guys having fun? Guys. Yeah, Alan says, I hope he doesn't change now he's elected president. Yeah, that is a problem. Sometimes people run as Democrats and they don't behave that way. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, so I think Malawi will do well. All right, folks. So, yeah, earlier we had this really cool session with Big Daddy Liberty, something people have been asking for a really long time, and I was finally able to make it come true. I enjoyed it immensely, although it got a little weird there when the sunlight started to disappear and Big Daddy Liberty climbed out of his truck, his Bucky, and he started walking around in the dark. We couldn't see him, and then he went back into his truck. It was entertaining, but it was quite an interesting time. I really enjoyed it, and I'm so grateful that people tuned in for that. Like I said, it was the single best audience so far for a live stream on my channel, with 257 concurrent viewers, which is really cool. And right now, let me just check on the total number of views that we've got on that video. It was over 2,000 last time I checked, before I came on the stream. So let's see. Yep, it's 2,000. Yep, that's pretty cool. So thank you all for tuning in for that. Big Guy Liberty was a real joy to host him on the channel. And you really have to pay attention on that stream, because the two of us talk really fast, and we covered a lot of ground. Really enjoyed that. So I will have coming up next week on Saturday, which is July 4th here in the United States, I will have Major General Johan Josta. And General Johan Josta was in the South African Defense Force as an infantry officer, and then remained in the SANDF when the forces merged and we had all these forces put together. He eventually retired as a 2-star general, an Afrikaans-speaking Afrikaner 2-star general under the ANC government. And then he went and worked in the private sector for BAE for a while, in the defense sector, and then eventually went to work with the South African National Park Service. And he did that for several years, and now he works for an NGO which works with the Park Service. So General Josta is quite an interesting fellow. We'll have him on next Saturday, July 4th, which will be Independence Day here in America. And we'll recognize 244 years since we declared our independence from the United Kingdom on the 4th of July, 1776. Yep, absolutely true. Right. Who didn't plan for more than... Who's your next guest? Yeah, he certainly never planned it for more than 10 minutes. Great stream, looking for the return. Eric, I'm sorry I missed that live chat. I was out gallivanting. Well, that's fine, Erica. You're welcome to gallivant. Erica, you were born in the Congo. I found that interesting. Are you Belgian? Or, I mean, I'm not to pry, but if you want to share. Or is that just because you had parents who were working there for some reason? Brett says, is there a brain drain problem in Malawi? Do most of the skilled professionals go to the USA, Canada, and UK since they get a visa? Yeah, there is a brain drain problem, but particularly it's especially bad for the medical profession, Brett. The old story goes there are more Malawian doctors in the city of Manchester in the UK than there are in the entire country of Malawi. That's actually true. That's sad. Think about that. One city in the United Kingdom has more doctors from Malawi than the entire country of Malawi. There's a brain drain. That's because people, by and large, can't profit from their skills, and so they go where they can take their skills and make money. Yeah, it's kind of sad, but it's not unique. You know, South Africa has a shortage of nurses in large measure because they don't get the sort of independence and responsibility that they get in other countries, like in Western Europe or the United States, Canada. And so nurses are poached by our country, and by the UK in particular, because we can pay them a lot more, and we have a shortage of nurses. So we get quality nurses from South Africa. Shame on us, but that's the reality. Labor will go where it can get the best pay, and that's one of the reasons. But there is a brain drain in Malawi. That's absolutely true. Yep. And Handy Dutchman says more come to South Africa. Yeah, a lot of people from Malawi, more people numerically go to South Africa, but a lot of the professionals wind up going elsewhere. Is Erica bragging? I don't think Erica's bragging, but it is curious to hear about what she was doing gallivanting. That might be fun. And Clinton says that'll be interesting. I think he's talking about Major General Johan Josta. Thanks for this great chat. Well, you're welcome, Willem. I'm glad you enjoy it. She grew up in the Belgian Congo. Yep. Now, ladies and gentlemen, be nice. That means Erica will be giving away her age. Yeah, well, brain drain is also a South African problem. That is true, with lots of South African professionals living in New Zealand, in Australia, UK, France. A lot of your electrical engineers and power plant technicians actually work in France. Yep. Corley, I can't find the video with Big Daddy. Well, let me get you the link. That might be because of the way that YouTube does things. Well, no, it's there. That's interesting. It's on my channel, but let me just go ahead and get you the link, and I'll paste it in here so you guys can save the link or open up another window. You can check it out later on. So there's the link. Get over there, put it in the chat. Multitask, much better than Microsoft. Okay, here we go. So there you go, Corley. You can check that out. Missed the Congo. Which part of the Congo were you in, Nigel? And Erica, which part of the Congo were you born and lived, if you don't mind sharing? How much would oh, jeez, you guys, okay. I was amazed how many guys from my year live in the States. I thought they were mostly UK, about half of that side. Who cares about my age? I have a lot of wisdom. Nobody cares, Eric. I'm just saying the Belgian Congo stopped being the Belgian Congo in 1960. Just saying. The Malawi factoid was insane. Which one? Hey, Lucanio, how are you? Good to see you there. Good to see you. Welcome. Appreciate you jumping into the chat there. Yeah, Malawi is quite a fascinating place, folks. If you ever get a chance to go, it's beautiful. The Shire country is just absolutely gorgeous. The thumbnail photograph that I was on actually climbed up to the top of that mountain. And it wasn't that hard to climb, but it was brutally humid. Whoa, it was wicked humid and quite hot. So you can see if you look at the photograph up close, you click on it, zoom from that thumbnail, you'll see that my chest, that shirt's a little wet from that hike. Lumumbashi, okay, in Katanga. Yeah, okay, well, yeah, there were a lot of Belgians down there, of course. And by the way, anyone ever seen, what's that movie? Jadotville, The Siege of Jadotville. I can highly recommend The Siege of Jadotville. It's a fantastic movie about the Irish unit that was trapped in Jadotville, and they were attacked, well, actually outside of Jadotville, but they were attacked, got caught up in the whole situation between the Katangans and Kinshasa. They were UN peacekeepers, and they were really stuck out there and screwed. Quite a good movie, The Siege of Jadotville. Came out recently. They were treated like the cowards and abused by Ireland and treated very poorly and then forgotten. But only recently, in recent years, have they been given their full due, and actually they acquitted themselves amazingly well. The movie is pretty accurate for a Hollywood sort of movie, but The Siege of Jadotville. How do you spell that? I'll spell it for you here. See, I think that's how you spell it, Siege of Jadotville. Yep. Lucania is saying about there being more doctors. What about that? Oh, that factoid. Yeah, no, it's crazy. You know, it's one of those things people say it's like an urban myth, but it's not. It's actually true. Yeah, it was a great movie. Yeah, I really. Actually, I gave, and they had it for a while. The War College had it. I gave. They have this lecture series. Not lectures. They have a movie series at the Army War College. Of course, you have to have an ID card to get on poster, be a guest to somebody, and it's not happening now because of lockdown. But before lockdown, the Association of the United States Army would pay for this. They would bring movies in, they would show them at the Army War College in Root Hall, and they would have a subject matter expert talk about the topic. So I did the Battle of Algiers. I spoke on that one, of course, and gave a presentation before the movie, and then the movie, once it was over, and I summed it up, explained, and answered people's questions about the Algerian Civil War. Then later I did the Siege of Jadotville, which was really cool. And I actually have the slides for that. I could actually show those, but I don't think I have it on this computer. Let me look and see if I have it on this computer, but I know it's on my laptop. But I will just double check and look to see if it's here. I don't think it is. Oh, there it is, Siege of Jadotville. That was from January of last year. I'll be darned. Well, looky there. Looky there. I could bore you guys with my slides. In the Congo. Has Eric answered where in the Congo? Yeah, so let me see if I can do this. Are you guys up for this? Am I going to bore you if I put these slides up? Well, I'm going to do it. Okay. Okay, here we go. I'm going to bring this in. Nobody's answering yet, so you're behind me on the chat. All right, I'm going to bring in this window capture and see if you guys like this. Okay, see if it'll come up. Nope, I want PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, where's it at? There we go. All right. Oh, that's not, I don't like that. So, you guys okay with this? No comments? Go for it. I gotta go for it. Okay, all right, I'm gonna do it. All right, unfortunately, for some reason, I'm going to have to, my picture winds up being smaller, so I'm going to have to walk through this way. I don't know why it's doing this, because I have two screens, I think it's the problem. So this is a presentation. I'm not going to give the whole presentation, but just to show you what I talked about. So I talked about Jadotville, and so Jadotville is going to be located down here in Katanga, in the southeastern part of Belgian Congo. And these are the key players. The Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba, Katangan Prime Minister Moises Chombe, and then Commandant Pat Quinlan. Quinlan was the commander of the Irish company that was located there. and Dr. Hammarskjöld, who died on the 18th of September 1961 trying to sort this out. So this is Katanga. There's only a few slides here, so I'll get through that. This is what you had. You had the government of Kasavubu and Mobutu, which was located in the west, the government of Gizenga to the north, and then you had Katanga in the south. And you can see that the borders overlap here. With Albertville, you've got two entities claiming that. That's actually part of Katanga, and then South Kasai here, which was claimed by Katanga. And so on the 11th of July 1960, the Republic of Katanga declared its independence from the from the Congo, and Prime Minister became Moise Tshombe. That's the flag of Katanga, and this was supported by the mining company Union Minière de Haut-Katanga. And that company lasted until 1966, and the Republic of Katanga lasted for nearly 3 years until January of 1963. And here's the setting for Jadoteville. There's Pat Quinlan sitting there with his rifle. It took place from the 13th to the 17th of September 1961, and the unit was commanded by 42-year-old Commandant Pat Quinlan. Commandant is Major. This was Alpha Company with 155 troops, 35th Battalion Irish Army with the United Nations mission in the Congo. There were Swedish and Irish companies of peacekeepers withdrawn from Jadoteville just before his company arrived, which also leaves a lot of questions. The Belgian Foreign Minister asked the UN Secretary General to protect the local population, including the Belgian settlers who were unprotected. But what the movie portrays and what actually happened is that when the UN peacekeepers showed up there, most of the Belgian settlers didn't want them there because they had little problem with the Katangan separation movement. So kind of put them in a bad spot. So they were not welcomed by the locals, either the Congolese or the Belgians there. They were pro-Katangan and there was anti-UN sentiment. UN Security Council resolutions, a whole series of them from 14 July, 22 July, 9 August, and 21 February of 1961. And so the one in July 22nd affirmed that it should be a unitary state, so that Katanga could not be a breakaway province. And then in August, the UN was explicitly allowed to send troops into Katanga based on this. And in February of 1961, they authorized the use of force in Katanga. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So that's kind of something that I did. This was, we had this movie series, and so I spoke on that. Well, what's the memberships? That's not right. How did the memberships get up there? Let me turn that off, membership goal. We've actually succeeded that, or superseded that now. We've gone beyond the 47. Okay, there you go. Whoops. Whoa, how'd that happen? Sorry about that. There we go. All right, so yeah, that's I did stuff like that all the time at the War College with this movie series, and so we have someone come in and talk about it. Siege of Jadoteville, brilliant movie. You got to watch it. Really, really well done. Some great acting takes place in there. Really cool. Yep, Tshombe was a good guy. See, Eric is a Belgian from the Katanga area. They like Tshombe. Yep. Raptor Man's off. Got to get up early, pretend to work. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for playing along. Slides, memories are great. Oh, okay, Nezi. Okay. Nezi, were you also in the Congo, if you don't mind? The only way I can handle flashbacks now, my PTSD from our farm attack is with hypotherapy. Oh, gosh. Sorry about that, Erica. My family had to steal their own airplanes and fly low-level get out. You know, a Mike Frost. Yeah, wow. Interesting, Nigel. Yep. Now, listen, one of the reasons why the National Party was so successful at convincing South Africans that the Zwart Gevaar, the black threat, black nationalism, was a serious threat, is because of the Belgian Congo. When Lumumba and Kasavubu took over as president prime minister and had their little tiff, Lumumba allowed the military to run roughshod. They basically started raping and pillaging everyone they could in the capital and around the country, and were out of control mob, essentially, in uniform. And their Belgian officers were eventually withdrawn, and it was a real mess. Then, I keep saying Mobutu, Lumumba sent the Congolese army into the southeast, and they flew in but landed in the wrong place, and they terrorized, tortured, raped, and murdered entire villages of people who were peaceful and loyal to the government and who paid taxes and had never been a threat to anyone. And what they did is they turned them into enemies, those who survived. So they were just absolute nonsense. So Patrice Lumumba is remembered as a great African. He's a great Pan-Africanist. And that's nonsense. He was an arrogant, egotistical fool who, like an idiot, intentionally antagonized the Belgians when the king showed up for turning over power and authority. and he was arrogant, and it played out in the entire rest of his life. Now, he didn't deserve the fate that he got. He was murdered in a horrible fashion after being tortured. But the reason that he's remembered as a great hero is because the mythology around it. His son's still around these days. Interesting fellow, well-educated. But Lumumba didn't deserve the fate that he got, but he certainly was not exactly blame-free in what happened. He is the reason why so much bad happened there. And of course, mercenaries eventually went into the eastern part of the Congo because going in there they found, white Europeans who'd been hacked apart and their body parts stored in refrigerators. People were being cannibals and eating. It was the most horrific stuff happening. So you can imagine how this played out in South Africa as over 100,000, a few 100,000 white Belgians and French speakers fled the Belgian Congo, those who could get out, and went all over the place, to Europe, but also to South Africa. It was such a terrible mess. Hank says, here's an email address for a guy doing interviews with Rugby Passion. Okay, that's not the fellow that Ronaldo knows, is it? He's got a YouTube channel from South Africa. Let me put that down. Thank you for that, Hank. We'll get some more rugby stuff on here. Get some rugby stuff on here. Sounds like a juju. Okay. I've got 8mm pictures, movies of that event. Which event are you talking about, Nige? You talking about the cannibalism and such? Oof. Why no Belgium, South Africa now? Never met any. There's a few there, Clinton. There's a few. Some have merged and assimilated into the Afrikaans-speaking community, but a lot went back to Belgium. Nigel says, I saw that and that was what was on my mind. That's why I had no trust in anything they say. They would love a revelation and go on a rampage. Yeah. Moise Shombe got my family out of the Congo safely. We were family friends. Are you serious, Erica? Wow. Wow. That's interesting. Nessie's from Zimbabwe. From Zimbabwe proper? From Rhodesia, Zimbabwe? Or from Northern Rhodesia? Or Nyasaland? Yeah. Crazy stuff. But that's what happened, ladies and gentlemen, and a lot of people forgotten about that. And so the National Party was able to use that because people were fearful. They were scared. And the concept of the total onslaught was not entirely without merit of the NP. Now, I'm not supporting what the NP did and its policies of apartheid, but what I'm saying is that it's understandable how the Red Scare and the Black Scare, Black Danger, the Red Danger, are things that the National Party talked about. And there was merit to the story. So, interesting. Yeah, it's very fascinating. How is it that I'm attracting all of these folks from the Belgian Congo, from Rhodesia, from Namibia, to this channel? It's really cool. It's interesting. Roadies never die. They never go away. Erica says, yep, dead serious. That's amazing, Erica. We have got to chat. Got to chat, yeah. Wow. Watch Katie Hopkins, The Killing Fields, just barbarian. Yep. Did you watch the video of Wimpy and his mother, Yanetta, that was attacked on their farm? I have not seen that, Anthony. Thank you. I'm not familiar with that particular one, I don't think. Clint McDowell, yes, it all sounded like the farm murders happening now. Yes and no, Clint. Yeah, what's happening now is I want to say, without people taking this the wrong way, it's very different than what happened in the Belgian Congo. What happened in the Belgian Congo was overnight, utter chaos. Overnight. And as Erica said, people had to get out. And the Katangan government did help Belgians get out, thankfully, while they still had power there. But it was far worse in Kinshasa. Kinshasa was an absolute mess. And the northeastern part of the country, in the Kivus, what an utter disaster. Missionaries, nuns hacked to death and their limbs stored in a refrigerator while people were eating them. It just, anyway. These aren't, now look, there's a lot of bad stuff that happened in the Congo ever since it was Leopold's personal property. The Congo wasn't really a colony, it was the personal property of King Leopold. And eventually, because the excesses that were so public, because of books like Red Rubber, and we also had, what's his name, Conrad, the American, who also exposed things happening in the Congo around the turn of the 20th century. Because of those books and publications and newspaper articles, a lot of what was happening was exposed, and eventually the king was kind of forced by his government into turning it into a colony, and then it became a colony, and Belgium ruled it until 1960. But no offense to any Belgians present, but Belgium did very little to prepare the Congo for independence. there were just a handful of university graduates and independents, very little in the way of infrastructure that didn't support providing resources to the metropole. It wasn't really developed to develop it as a country as such, but rather, like most colonies, to provide resources to the metropole. And so the Congo was ill prepared, and it was also fractured with a multitude of groups that were competing for power. Hence, you get a situation with Kasavubu and Lumumba competing, one becoming president, one becoming prime minister, and one thinking the president was more powerful, and the other thinking the prime minister was more powerful, both winding up in direct conflict with each other. What a mess. So you had this total disaster from the outset in the Belgian Congo. And overnight, white Europeans were slaughtered. It wasn't a build-up, and it wasn't remote. It was in the cities. Gang rapes, beheadings, murders, lootings, burning people alive, hacking people apart while they're alive, simply because they were different and they were easy targets. Now, to be fair, the Congolese army and groups did this to everyone. It wasn't just white Europeans. But of course, white Europeans, and this was the first United Nations peacekeeping mission. It was not peace, though. This is the first United Nations intervention mission that ever took place, was the Belgian Congo. What an absolute mess. It was horrific, Clinton. It was absolutely horrific. And there's no excuse for it. It was barbaric. It was inhuman. And instead, we remember, not we, but people, Pan-Africanists in particular, remember Lumumba as a great liberator, as a great man. He was an arrogant ass. He was an arrogant ass. And he precipitated this horrific carnage that took place. And he bears responsibility for it. And that's a stain on his reputation for those who are objective about what happened. Now, Lumumba did play a key role in the early days, but he didn't last very long because he was not liked. Now, this has been turned by Pan-Africanists and African nationalists into the abuses of the Belgian Congo, the Belgians supporting the Katangans, and there's a lot of truth in all that. But the bottom line is that the Congolese didn't like Patrice Lumumba, despite the fact that maybe people in Guinea and Ethiopia liked him. Okay, so southern New Zimbabwe ruins Fort Victoria. Okay, yeah, which Masvingo. Okay, now see, I've actually been to Masvingo and to Great Zimbabwe. Quite an interesting visit. I stayed at the Flamboyant something hotel there in Masvingo. Tian says, so why didn't the locals want the UN peacekeepers? We didn't want them because they actually wound up attacking peacekeepers too. If you're talking about the Congo, they didn't want the peacekeepers because they didn't want Western interference in the country. They had their independence and they wanted it. But it happened pretty quickly. Fonz is talking about Kenya with Mau Mau. Was also used as far as that's true. And the Mau Mau rebellion in Kenya was nasty, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely nasty. It's a part of history that people seem to forget about now. But what happened in Kenya was quite horrific, and the British response was quite draconian. But yeah, the Mau Mau. But I mean, these sort of rebellions, there's a long history of them in Africa during the period of colonization. In Southwest Africa, German Southwest Africa, of course, we had the Herero uprising. And before that, we had the Damara uprising, which was put down. But then the Herero was turned into a campaign of ethnic genocide by the German government, attempting to push Herero out of what was Southwest Africa. And so they pushed them in the Omahaki Desert in the northeastern part of Namibia. And then they poisoned wells. They shot men on sight when they saw them from the Herero tribe. Many Hereros fled through the desert. Many died in the desert. Others escaped and got into Botswana. And so today we have the historical anomaly of a group of ethnic Herero who live in Maun at the base of the Okavango Delta, who came from Namibia when the Germans were ruling. So you had that taking place in Tanganyika. In German East Africa, we had the Maji Rebellion, which was in 1903 to 1905. And I think those are the dates of it. The Maji Rebellion, which is, Maji is water, so water rebellion, was an ethnic uprising by ethnic Africans against German rule, which the German Schutztruppe put down with brutal efficiency and ended it rather quickly and in the favor of the German government. Which is interesting because then what happens is later, Paul Lettow von Vorbeck leads the Schutztruppe during the First World War, and almost all of his troops are black African troops known as the Askari, which is a word for police or soldier. Anthony Purchase has become a member. Well, thank you that. You've come in at the platoon leader level. Ooh, there you go. You finished your West Point time. Thank you so much for becoming a member of Chris White Africa, Anthony. I really appreciate that. And to everybody out there, thank you so far. Those new members who've joined us, 3 or 4 today so far, plus the super chats, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, so Paul Otto von Vorbeck had primarily African soldiers, and for 4 years he successfully fought a guerrilla campaign, the most successful modern guerrilla campaign, except perhaps maybe Mao's Red Long March, but that wasn't really a campaign, it was a retreat. But the most successful guerrilla campaign in the 20th century, arguably, was Paul Otto von Vorbeck. Tied down over 500,000 Commonwealth soldiers in Tanganyika from 1914 until 1918. And in fact, at the end of the conflict in November of 1918, his forces were in the Belgian Congo, in the eastern part of the Congo, when the Belgians approached him after having been in Rhodesia and having been in Mozambique and all over Tanganyika. As they chased him around, he eluded them. They would strike the British forces, or the Commonwealth forces, then they'd pull back using guerrilla tactics and kept them in the field. And that's 500,000 troops that were desperately needed in Western Europe on the Western Front. But they never got there because they were tied down in Eastern Europe, Eastern Africa by Paul Otto von Vorbeck. So eventually the Belgians approached him and said, listen, the war's over. And he's like, yeah, okay, fine, the war's over. He's not believing them. So they brought him a telegram from the Kaiser to him specifically. And it said, the war's over, you can lay down your arms. So he laid down his arms, never surrendered, and then he was repatriated along with the Germans who were left in his force, not many, because he had a fair number at the beginning, but a lot of them had died as a result of conflict or malaria or dysentery and such. So by 1918, it was only a handful of Germans left and Africans. And he went back to Germany, where he was hailed as a hero. And of course, Germany descended into chaos a few years after that. The Nazis sought to use him to their advantage because he was a national hero in Germany. And they offered him a full general position in the Wehrmacht. And he was an avowed anti-Nazi, he hated the fascists. And so he refused, and he was able to avoid that. He survived until he passed the end of the Second World War and then died shortly after that. But Paul Otto von Vorbeck went back to Dar es Salaam 20 years after the end of the First World War, and they had a massive parade for him on the streets of Dar es Salaam. He was greeted as a national hero. People turned out, his veterans turned out, who were still alive 20 years later, with tears streaming down their face. He greeted them, he hugged them. He was respected by his men because he went through all the tribulations that his soldiers went through. He wasn't one of these typical empire soldiers or officers who, here's my tent, bring me my crackers and my tea. Okay, now we're going to do something. No, this guy was out there with his troops, and in fact, when his boots wore out, he, like his soldiers, took used tires and cut the tires, ran cord through them, and those became his sandals that he survived on. Yeah, Paul Otto von Vorbeck, a truly amazing leader and a guy who led a very successful insurgency against the British Empire. Yep, that was Tanganyika. So. Clint McDonald says, you should have a stream on the Cape X, and that would be interesting in your opinion. I've already had one. I had Phil Craig on my program about a week or two ago. Yep. And we talked about, he's from the Cape Independence Advocacy Group, and we talked about, and we actually went for an hour and 45 minutes, so you missed that. That's actually a live stream under past live streams. Phil Craig, you can find it there. I'm going to have him back on at some point. In Jackson, Mississippi, Patrice Lumumba is revered as a hero. It's sad and depressing. Yes, and that is sad and depressing because he's not a good person. Get you online, Lynn says, that's why roadies are called when wheeze. It's now, so where to now? Exactly. What else? What did I miss? Now Namibia is another Lesotho. Why do the Afrikaners not have one? I'm not sure what I'm following there, Clinton. They don't have their own country, you mean? I guess that's what you mean. Petrus says, should I rephrase my question? What am I missing, Petrus saying? Oh, okay, you're having a chat with someone else. Okay. Petrus says, do you think your high IQ attract high IQ subs? Yeah, okay. No, I think it does. Well, thank you for the compliment, and I'll pay the compliment back. Thank you, guys. There must be some high IQ folks who come here. Erica, the blow up in the Congo is sudden. Chombe knew it was coming. Yes, that's true, Erica, and you're right about both. Of course, Chombe knew he was going to declare Katangan independence, so he knew it was going to cause problems and always expected that it would lead to conflict, and he was right about that. But but from the perspective of the Belgians living in the Congo and even the Congolese, yeah, it was sudden. It just happened so quickly. Yeah, I've seen Christian's comments. Let me see. Nezzy says, Shabani, cattle ranch finale on the banks of the Lundi River. Okay, well, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. Petra says, because I enjoy your live stream and I experience such intelligent comments on the live chat, do you think an intelligent host attracts more intelligent subscribers? I hope so. I would like to think that's the case. That's pretty cool. Erica says her home language was French, and she's been in South Africa since 1959. Wow. So there you go. Nigel, you were saying that where are the Belgians from the Congo? Well, there's one right there. She's been in South Africa at that time for a long time. My thoughts on Irania. I used to hate it with a passion, but now I support it. Well, when Irania first started, I started looking into it, research, and trying to learn a little bit about Irania, and because it was portrayed as a racist, anyway, it was portrayed in a very bad fashion. But it was a private corporation. They bought the land. They set it up a long time ago. My only concern, not knowing enough about it, was I was worried, that it could be potentially one of these things like David Koresh, you can buy land, or Jim Jones in Guyana, and it's kind of a cult sort of thing. But I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that it was kind of set up as a corporation. So once I learned a little bit about Irania, I kind of had an agnostic view towards it. But the more I've learned about them in the past decade or so, the more convinced I am that it's perfectly fine. It's a good idea. It doesn't violate the rules of South Africa. It's not calling for separation or secession. It's living within the laws and confines of South African society. It is a community that is based on Afrikaans, and if you are an Afrikaans speaker and you want to be part of their community, you can become part of it, regardless of what your skin color is. And there's nothing wrong with that. So my view on Irania is I have no objections to it. But it's not, people think it's a separate estate. It's not. It's just a town. Yep. Clinton says I'm very well informed. Well, thank you. Garrett tells Hendo that he was in Mpumalanga when they did away with the commando. The murders weren't same before and spiked more after, but the stats don't add up to what I saw. Yeah, the numbers being reported don't add up at all to the number of people killed. And also, there's also a chilling effect on commercial farming, ladies and gentlemen. In 1994, there were 68,000 commercial farmers in South Africa. Today, the number is closer to 32,000, less than half. Now, some of that's attributed to the fact that a lot of people moved away from farming and moved off of farming. But you don't cut the number of farmers in half in a generation or two generations that quickly, simply because people have aged. People do tend to have kids. Somebody will take over. There's more at work here. People are terrified. A lot of farms are in disuse now. It's really, really sad what's happening. Maybe do a stream about farm murders. Yeah, Robert. Yeah, that's a stream we could do. We've talked about a lot, but I'll think about it. The problem with that is that it's a highly political thing in which we'll just attract a bunch of lunatics, and I don't know if I want to deal with the lunatics because we can talk about in the stream without focusing specifically on it, and we don't attract a bunch of crazy ones. And when the crazies get into the chat, it becomes a lot of work for the moderators to keep it under control. And I don't see, well, Hendo's still here. I was going to say I don't see many moderators, but Hendo's there. Erica says, I used to visit Chombe's family home in the jungle. They taught me to interpret the jungle drums. I heard the jungle drum messages change very quickly. 5 years old when you left. Oh, now we know exactly how old Eric is. G. Wells says, how many black families in Irania? I don't know of any black families, but I know there are colored families living there. G. Wells. I've never been to Irania, by the way. I'm just relying on interviews and press reports from the media themselves. Farmers live in fear every second of the day. They are. It's pretty crazy. Garrett says, seemed like everyday people were being taken out, laborers too, so the government have no basis for screaming and shouting about race. No, and again, so let's just talk about farm murders, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, as I talked about when Big Daddy Liberty was on earlier, my issue with all this is that it's just like in Zimbabwe, it's being distorted for political purpose. So when white farmers are murdered and their family and their children are tortured, brutalized, cut apart, raped with broomsticks, which are plunged through all the way through the body, coming out the neck, we're told that it's not happening. And the media is sensationalizing it. Well, they never report the black farm workers and the black farm owners and the coloreds who are murdered by these thugs. Why is that? What's the agenda there? Why aren't all these crimes? Why did the South African government not report crime statistics for nearly 3 years, over a decade ago? Because there's an agenda at work here. The reality is that living in rural South Africa is a dangerous, dangerous situation. Why? Because the ANC dismantled the Commando System because they lied about the purpose of it and claimed that it was a racist thing tied to white supremacy, which it was not. In fact, 4 of the regiments that were in KZN were entirely black regiments. There weren't any white South Africans in the regiments, and there were essentially jobs programs for guys who had no formal employment. So they would be activated on the weekend or sometimes during the week. They would do coordinate search operations looking for mandrax and daga It made a lot of seizures of illegal narcotics. It also provided response in the rural areas around the country. The Commando System was born much like the Minuteman system in America. You got the call that the enemy was coming. You grabbed your rifle, your powder, your satchel, water, biltong, rations. You hopped on your horse, you rode to the next farm, you passed the word, and you all gathered in your commando, your company. And then you went and you defended your homeland. That's what the commando system is about. Nothing to do with apartheid, nothing to do with racism. In fact, there were people in commandos who were coloreds. The Griquas had commandos. You had Africans who allied, the Basutu people and the Tswana people who allied with commandos and with Afrikaans, Boers, and Trek Boers to fight against, for instance, Mzilikazi, who was raiding against the Basutu and against the Griquas and against the Tswana people, stealing their land, stealing their cattle, murdering, raping, and things like that. So they allied. So the ANC told a complete fictional narrative about the purpose of the commandos by lying about it. Disbanded it. Now, the commandos weren't the solution for rural security, but they contributed to rural security. What happened when the 168 commando units were disbanded is that there was almost no line of defense in the rural areas, catching many rural South Africans off guard, not prepared for the onslaught that was coming their way by criminals of opportunity, by organized syndicates who intentionally target farmers to scare people off the land. I mean, you don't go into a home and cut fingers off of someone and gang rape a woman in front of her children and her husband and cut the testicles off a man and shove them in his mouth and then cut the throats of children after you burn them with cigarettes and murder the entire family to rob them. And you sure as hell don't go in front of the United Nations and tell the biggest whopper of the 21st century, there are no farm murders in South Africa. Donald Trump is misinformed. I don't know where he got that from. No farmers have been killed in South Africa. Well, back to my point, ladies and gentlemen, it's farmers of all races, of all ethnicities are being butchered and tortured in South Africa. And farm workers, whenever they attack one of these farms, they also go after the farm workers. They do that. And because the farm workers are black or colored in many cases, the media doesn't talk about that. The ANC denies it. This is the great tragedy and shame of ANC governance, malgovernance and malfeasance. 2 years ago, I didn't say these things about the ANC, even though these events were taking place, because I believe that the majority of people in the African National Congress were still committed to a multiracial, market-based economy, multiracial country. But they're not. They're just full of race baiting because they're cowards. They're afraid of losing. And now they're ruling by totalitarian fiat with an unelected, undemocratic, unaccountable National Coronavirus Command Council, imposing nonsensical, unlawful bans which are upheld by their kangaroo courts. Now, is that fair? I think so. I think when the North Gauteng High Court says that it's perfectly acceptable for the Tourism Relief Fund to deny relief money to minority-owned businesses, and that's not racial discrimination, that's their determination, how else can one look at it? The ANC still has many genuine people committed to South Africa, in multiracial South Africa. But they are in the decline in the party, and the lunatics are running the asylum. From the rotten head down. From the rotten head down. Wasn't going to get into that, but I thought I'd share that really quickly. So, what do you guys think about that? Anyway. Why do farmers establish? Well, in fact, Clinton, short of that, farmers have reestablished the commando, just not in name. What they've done is in many places, like in Limpopo and in Mpumalanga and other places, farmers have radio networks and patrols at night to protect each other and respond to these attacks. It does happen. Yeah, Lynn, you're right. In fact, people talk about Zimbabwe as if it was just a, kumbaya. They forget that ZANU and ZAPU sent Zipra and Zanla across the border to rape and murder, torture, and dismember rural Rhodesian farmers as part of their terror campaign. And they did the same thing to Zimbabweans who lived in villages. Yeah, a colleague of mine who I respect greatly, who used to be an attaché in Zimbabwe, pointed out to me one time when I was defending, or not defending, but pointing out these horrors. Well, the Rhodesian forces, they put poison chemicals on uniform caches and weapon caches to poison the guerrillas. Yeah? Okay, what's your point? So does that mean that it was okay for what happened? No. No, no. And also remember, ladies and gentlemen, that the Zimbabwean nationalists, their military, used surface-to-air missiles to shoot down commercial airliners, Rhodesian Airways. And it wasn't enough that they shot down planes. One of the most horrific incidents, they shot down a plane coming from either Livingston or coming from Lusaka, I forget which, flying back to Harare, Salisbury at the time. And they shot the plane down near Kariba, near the dam. The pilot managed to land the plane, and people survived the plane crash, only for them to come to the side of the plane crash and torture, bayonet, and then murder in cold blood men, women, and children on the site. A few people managed to survive this horrific attack by getting away in the bush and hiding in the bush while these other people were butchered and murdered by these despicable scuzzballs. Yeah, no, these are war crimes. No one was prosecuted for war crimes from Rhodesia Zimbabwe conflict. No one. No one. Not by the government, not by anyone. Many of those same bastards wound up in the government of ZANU. That's right. That's right. Yep. And we're just surprised by things like the 5th Brigade? No, that's just old hat for some of these people. All old British regiments renamed in Durban. I didn't know that. Well, they better not rename Wyatt Street in Durban, Charles. Wyatt Straat, that's my street, named after a distant relative who fought for British forces in the Anglo-Zulu War. 168 units, yep. Username, did they operate under Central Command? No, original commando units did not. People would send messengers to report to like the Orange Free State government and to the Transvaal government in Italia before that. But the modern commando system, they did have a role and they did report, but I'm not going to get into that structure right now. So reactive role now is a proactive when it was commando. Sort of. No, Cyril's not going to say anything about the farmers. Nezzy Wilderness says, they murdered our people. I ran with 3 babies in my arms down the Lundi River, whose mommy had just been shot. I got away only by just running past crocodiles and hippos. Yeah, no, it's crazy, Nezzy. It's crazy, and people have forgotten about it. And that's what's so despicable about when Mugabe lied about farms and about farmland, and they started torturing and murdering folks in Zimbabwe. That's what's so sad about it. And they got away with it by turning it to a race issue. Most people were actually genuine racist in Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, left the country because they didn't want to live under black rule. They went elsewhere. Those who stayed behind had no issue with it and wanted to live in their homeland where they've been born, where their parents have been born, sometimes grandparents and great-grandparents back to the 1890s and before that in Zimbabwe and Rhodesia. And they lived perfectly fine and got along with their neighbors and had people working for them until Mugabe and his crooked, corrupt ZANU-PF government ran out of things to pilfer from the economy, so they turned on the commercial farms and then lied about it, claiming that the land was stolen. The land was stolen by settler columns in 1890. They took all of our land. Well, the truth of the matter is that the settler columns that came in 1890 were quite small. The number of white Europeans who arrived in Rhodesia were quite small. They couldn't possibly have occupied all the land to steal it. So that's a myth for starters. And the reality is that most of the white population of Rhodesia actually arrived after World War II and included a large number of veterans of the Second World War who were looking for greener pastures because UK was destroyed. So they went to Africa, and many went to South Africa, many went to Rhodesia. And they created commercial farms by buying farmland. But what's also forgotten in the story is that from 1980 until 2000, 42% of all land that was marked or designated by the government itself as commercial farmland had been purchased at least one time, some of it on multiple occasions, because farmland changes hands sometimes. 42% of all the land from 1980 till 2000 had been purchased at least one time. So if Mugabe's government had been serious about land for poor Africans and war veterans, they could have acquired 42% of it legally. But they had no interest in that. All they had an interest in was eating for themselves and stealing. So the 63 million pounds that the government of the UK gave between 1980 and about 1992 or 94 to Harare to purchase farmland was used to purchase farmland. And those farms were handed over to Sharon Spiri, to Constance Chiwengo, to Emerson Mnangagwa, to Robert Gabriel Mugabe, and the list goes on and on and on. Solomon Mujuru, who died on the El Alamein farm, which was not his farm. It was a farm built by a veteran of the Second World War, a land he purchased legally and was stolen from him by the thug Solomon Mujuru, who was, of course, murdered in his home that he stole. But the point is that 42% of the land. So it's all lies. All lies. And we could go for hours. Maybe I'll do a stream just talking about land. Why don't I do that? We'll do a stream talking about land in South Africa because I went on to Ronaldo's program and talked about it. But I'll do a stream devoted to that sometime soon. But let me see what else. In war is only one side fighting. Nezzy, that's really sad. I'm so glad that you survived and got away. Some didn't. Fawn says, yeah, they use cell jammers. Makes one believe there's much more. Well, this is one of the points I make. I've seen video footage of these thugs arriving with body armor, with advanced small arms, and with rifles, automatic rifles, with cell phone jammers, with wire cutters to get through fences, and with equipment to short circuit electric fences. That's not targets of opportunity. That's not an unplanned crime. That's clearly an orchestrated campaign. That's what that is. That's what that is. So I would suggest that farmers install crew-served weapons on their property and use them. Anyway, how can the city Gauteng help? I'm not sure what the question is there. What aspect of the commando units made them effective besides not being part of today's SAPs? Well, their mere presence made them effective. Also, they were like reserve units here in the States. They were folks who worked together, knew each other, so they knew what their strengths and weaknesses were, and they could count each other. And local knowledge. Unlike police that come in from outside or military who come into an area from outside, the commandos knew the ground. They knew the terrain. And knowing your backyard is a big part of being effective. And so, but their mere presence made them effective. Yep, never trust a commie. Anyway, not sure what you're saying there, Joe, about racist and racialist. It's not the same. Nothing was done to Mugabe. He got away with it. Yep, to his deathbed, got away with it. Clinton says, Chris, yes, land is an issue in South Africa. Indeed it is, but it's also being lied and there's distortions about it, so we can talk about that endlessly. In fact, I'll tell you what, guys, why don't I set up a session? Okay, if you agree that I should do this, we'll do this sometime in the coming week. If you agree we should do this, and what I'll do is I'm about ready to cough up the money and just bite the bullet and pay for Zoom because I need more reliable. Plus, I want to be able to get more than one person into a call, and it doesn't work with Skype very well. So I'll probably activate Zoom this week and just foot the darn bill and eat that in a pocket, unless people start super chatting. But well, let me put this for you. So put this to you. So later this week, I could do a live stream focused on the land issue in South Africa. But what I'll do is, if you're willing, if you think it's a good idea, I want you to say yes or give me a thumbs up or a hand clap, or you can do what Nigel just said. That'll be great. But I'm going to give you a homework assignment. Okay? If you want to be part of this, I'm going to give you a link to my article about land and poverty in South Africa. It's not a long article, and I encourage you to read it. I wrote it on LinkedIn, so I'll send you that. And what I'll do is we'll set this up, and we will bring a Zoom session, and I'll get people to come in. Now, what I'm going to ask all of you present here still with me is please share this with folks. It won't be an hour, Gareth. It'll have to be 90 minutes if I got people calling in, because I could talk for 5 hours by myself. No. Google Voice. Okay, well, I hadn't tried that Google Voice. Let me try that. Yeah, so, yeah, sounds like you guys like it. Maybe I'll try the Google Voice. Okay. Today was an hour. Oh, what was an hour today? Whoa. Where's Yanni? He's coming in with the money for Zoom. Yanni, I didn't know you were here, man. Erica loves it. Okay. Yanni with the 200 Rand super chat. That's going to come up in a second. Sorry, I got excited when I saw that. I love Yanni's avatar, man. He looks like a freaking, one of those Japanese warriors, with the hair bun, and he's got the beard, and he's got the orange going there. I really love that. So don't use Zoom. People like Zoom, don't Zoom. Well, Yanni just gave me money to pay for Zoom, so at least that pays for 1 month of it. So Yanni Van de Vault donated 200 Rand through Super Chat. Zoom. Okay. All right, so yeah, Yanni, what are those guys? Samurai Warriors, that's what I was saying. Gosh, I was in Japan, I couldn't remember. So it looks like you guys want me to do this. So I will promise we'll do this later in the week. And what we will do is we need to promote the live stream, and we're going to talk about the land issue in South Africa. And I'll set it up so I introduce the topic, and I'll bring up the paper, and I'm going to send you guys a link to the paper. And then what I ask you guys to do is people call in, but what I want is substantive stuff. Now, okay, it's not a rant session, guys. Damn it, this thing. Well, let's talk about real issues here, real substantive things, okay? If we can talk about substantive things and we can get people into conversation, we can make it interesting, we can talk about it. If you live in a farm or you've lived on a farm or you grew up on a farm, that'd be great to bring into the conversation. If you've never been to a farm, then if you've got questions about farming in South Africa, bring that up too. If you lived on a farm in the Congo or in Namibia or Angola or Mozambique or somewhere else and you had to leave that farm, we can talk about that. So I think it'll be really good stuff. Let me get this linked in. I'm going to get you the address. I'm going to share it with you guys now, and I'll put it in the stream when I set it up so you've got the address, and I'll give it to you as homework. And yeah, so you guys don't mind a little bit of homework, right? Oh, wait a second. So Donald Stanford, the former USA Eagle 7, who's a personal friend of mine, he's a broadcaster. He most recently did the Rugby World Cup in Japan where we linked up. We saw each other. He also, by the way, introduced me to Joel Stransky because Joel Stransky was his broadcast partner for the World Cup. So Joel Stransky and I met, and he was astounded that I've been a Springboks fan since 1984. He really loved it. So yeah, Donald Stanford has got a new podcast with Brian Habana. This is amazing. So let me, I'll have to get you guys the link on that. But right now, let me get you the story, and I'll send it to you. And you should listen to that. Donald's a great broadcaster. He's from South Africa, but came to the U.S., attended university, and wound up playing for the USA Sevens. He's married to an American, and I guess he's an American at this stage, but he's originally from South Africa. So let me get to my articles. Just a second here. Okay. Give me a second here. And articles. And this is one I wrote. It's called Land and Poverty in South Africa. So let's turn this into a, something more than just the standard kind of YouTube thing. It'll be interactive. You guys can do a little bit of homework and prepare for it. Okay, here's the article. I found it, so I'll get the URL. I'll send it to you, and then I'll post it in the thing, and then we'll get people to call in. And here you go. So here's the link, ladies and gentlemen. So the article is called, and I'll bring it into the stream here in just a second so you can see it. So come on, where is the capture? There it is. That's not the one I want. Oh, okay, that's not what I want. Okay. Oh, it's this one here I want. There we go. Okay, so that's my article, ladies and gentlemen. That is South Africa Land and Poverty. I wrote this on April 7th, 2018, so 2 years ago, and I talked about the causes of poverty in South Africa and the issue of land. And so I hope you enjoy it. Solutions. Whoops, what's that? Oh, Charles Argo has become a member. Well, thank you so much. NO2, is that like nitrous oxide, man? Thank you, Charles, so much for becoming a member. Really appreciate it. Yanni, thanks for the super chat. Yeah, so back to that. Let me get that back up. So yeah, land and poverty, and this isn't just me whinging about the issue of land in South Africa. It's actually me offering solutions. It's an opinion editorial piece, which I wrote, and I put it on LinkedIn, which doesn't get a lot of attention. But anyway, so yeah, so this one here, and I use the term to talk about white monopoly capital, white farmland, black dispossession, racism, institutional and individual collusion. Anyway, and then these are solutions I talk about. So it's not particularly long. Got some cool graphics and charts in here and data. Like that's from the Land Audit Report in November 2017. So for instance, you look at this, you'll see that in South Africa, there were 181,000 people who owned land in South Africa as individuals. Only 95,000 of them are white. So only 53% of the landowners in South Africa are white. Who knew? We were told the whites own all the land, 87% of the land. Now, these are actual landowners, not acreage or hectareage, so that's an important distinction. But from this, 40,500 are black African landowners. But the blacks don't own any land in South Africa. At least that's the lie we've been told by the ANC and the EFF. And so I discussed the whole issue. So take a look at this, folks. There's the link. Save that link. Oh, that's a pretty photo there of wheat field. Lovely stuff. Anyway, I think it's a wheat field. So take a look at that, and I'll set the stream up for later in the week. We'll probably do Zoom maybe, or maybe Google. I'll take a look at that, but I've got the money there for opening up the Zoom. So we'll take a look at that, and it should be fascinating. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And we'll plan on an hour and a half, and folks will be able to call in, and we'll talk about it. And let me see what comments you guys have. Robert started something. Lots of us did volunteer for the Commando's after military service, mostly over the weekends. Yeah, it was mostly on the weekend, Fonz, that's correct. But the regiments in KwaZulu-Natal that were all black and all Zulu, by the way, many of them worked during the week because it was really just a jobs program in many respects. But they did provide security in the rural areas for black and white South Africans. Lanasia. Okay, cool beans. All right, so yeah, Charles, thanks for becoming a team member. Really appreciate that. Right, so let me take a quick peek of that. I want to do a little housekeeping there very quickly, and thanks, and folks. So let me get back to, now my browser is acting very slowly. Come on, here you go. Okay, trying to get back. Okay, so here we go. I want to get back to this point very quickly. And we've got, so far now, we are up to 51 members. Okay, it's not loading for some reason. That's out of date. Give me a moment here. I'm going to reload it. Maybe it'll play nice. I think it's actually 52, but it says 51. So let's see. We now have, and the answer is, come on, I got 53 members of Chris White Africa. And that includes the most recent members, which are Charles, who just joined, Anthony Purchase, Robert Z.A., and Gareth, and Sonia, who joined earlier. Thank you all so much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people joined today, pushed us over 50. Thank you all so much for that. And then on the Super Chat front, people have been generous this evening. And so we've got Bosch Zebra did one, and then Brett, and then Patrice Lumumba, and Yanni came in with that big one there. Pretty cool. Thank you all so much for that. Right, so I think we have a plan for that. Now, so I'm also going to have a stream this week, which I'll set up, that has a expert on counterterrorism. He's an African, Nigerian originally, and there's a Nigerian American. She grew up with American parents, are Nigerian. She served in the U.S. Air Force, and she started her own strategic intelligence agency, which is kind of interesting. It's a consultancy. And I'm going to get her and get the two of them on later this week. And it should be interesting as well. So if you want to tune in on that, that'll be a special feature coming this week. And then I will probably have on, for those who are curious about the agricultural sector, if you remember, one of my first guests on here was Evans Larrabee. Evans is a small-scale commercial farmer in Ghana. And Evans apparently has a new development. I have to find out what that new development is, but he's asked to come back on the program. So this week I'll probably do that. So that means we probably have 3 special features this week. And then on Saturday, Major General Johan Josta. So it looks like a busy week. Pretty cool. Let me see. There was a question there. I'm going to get to it. Doc Breaker says, you never know the connection to the continent of Africa until you've left it. That's why I came back, and I do believe you know and feel as well. No, absolutely, absolutely. 52, 53. No, 53 members, that's correct. Erica says, true, Doc Breaker, you can take us out of Africa, but you won't get Africa out of us. That's absolutely true. You can't get that soil out of your body. It's in there. Clinton says, any idea what day for the land stream? I'm going to say Wednesday or Thursday most likely, but let me see how I can get this put together, okay? So Wednesday or Thursday. All right? Yeah, so there you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's an hour and 55 minutes. A big audience with me still, but it's not Sunday. What day is this Sunday? I'm confused about the days now. It's a lockdown here, so it is Sunday. Yeah, it is Sunday, and some people actually have to go to work tomorrow, so I'm going to let some folks get around to that. I want to thank you all for tuning into what we had going on earlier, which was Big Daddy Liberty coming on here. It was truly amazing. I really, really enjoyed it. Fantastic stream, and we had a lot of, for me, personal best on the live streams with 257 concurrent viewers, over 2,000 people who viewed it. Really amazing stuff, good stuff. But before I go, I'm going to give you another treat. It's not going to be Giselle today, but we have another video from Chad Prather, and you're going to like this. You already heard Quarantine Life if you were here early in the stream, so I'm going to put on another song here for folks, and this one is really, really cool. I hope you enjoy this as well, but I'm just getting it teed up here, okay? So I think it's almost ready, and then we're going to get up. So thank you all so much for the Super Chats. Yadi, thank you for that one to finance the Zoom. Appreciate everybody tuning in. It's been a wonderful time. I'll be on tomorrow most likely with a stray voltage. But I may do my stray voltage tomorrow earlier because I saw that Ronaldo Hus guest John Steinhuisen was not available tonight, and he actually moved it to a later time. So I'll double check Ronaldo's time, and if it's at 9 o'clock in South Africa, I'll move mine up to 8 o'clock or 7:30 and do it sooner tomorrow for my stray voltage. I'm not expecting people to be up really, really late. But please get the word out about this stream, put it on social media, tell people it's going to happen, and I'll get a link up pretty quickly, and then you'll have the link, you can share the link, and let's get some people to come in and check this out. All right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a real pleasure once again. Thanks, everybody, for being loyal subscribers, and those who can afford it and are willing to do it, thank you so much for being members. No one has to become a member. It's really grateful. I'm really grateful that you do become members. But it's all part of being a community. By the way, for the members, I'll be doing a special live stream sometime within the next 2 weeks, because I promise to do one a month. And then for the Master and Commander folks, the strategic video that's done just for you guys. We can talk more about that with members later on. But anyway, thank you all for subscribing and checking out. I'm going to leave you now with Chad Prather, and this one's called Take 6 Feet and Shove It. This, of course, is about the virus and what's going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a pleasant evening. God bless. Be safe. And let me get this up here. Let me make sure before I close out. Where's it at now? Okay, here we go. So, there you go. Okay, I'm going to close out with that. Enjoy yourselves. God bless. And we'll see you all tomorrow.
Shove it. I ain't quarantined no more. Stock markets crashed, took all the reasons I was working for. You better not try to put a mask on my face when I'm walking out the door. Take 6 feet and shove it. I'm off to the grocery store. We've been working on our jobs what seems like 100 years. All of a sudden we get sent home based on some irrational fears. If we get too close, folks will die. That's what they say. If you're scared, keep your ass at home, but we got bills to pay. Take 6 feet and shove it. Ain't quarantined no more. Stock markets crashed, took all the reasons I was working for. You better not try to put a mask on my face when I'm walking out the door. Take 6 feet and shove it. What the hell are we locked up for?
Well, CNN is hyping it up, and the rest, they're doing it too.
Non-stop talk of these COVID deaths to put the fear of God in you.
One of these days we'll all wake up, and the stations, they're gonna pay.
Lord, I can't wait to see their faces when we finally stand and say, take 6 feet and shove it. I ain't quarantined no more.
Stock markets crashed and took all the reasons I was working for.
You better not try to put a mask on my face when I'm walking out the door. Take 6 feet and shove it. I better stop by the liquor store. Take 6 feet and shove it. Come here and give me some sugar. Mwah. You must be French.
You're so